Tony Barnfield on Cambridge 105 Radio.
Once an Angel, written by Robert Priesman, who I knew many years ago at the BBC when we both worked as reporter presenters on Woman's Hour. Robert, or Bob as I knew him, died last year just as a CD came out featuring his choir Libera. And it was co-produced by Sam Coates, who joins me on the line now. You actually began life in Libera as a 6-year-old, I believe.
Yes, I was a mini boy, as we call them, when they're the very smallest singers. And so Robert and the choir, they got me into a love of choral music that took me right the way through my teenage years. And then I got interested in all the sound and the recording and then the arranging. And so I haven't looked back since, really. I've been involved singing the whole time and now producing the records. And now, I've taken over where Robert's left off, I suppose.
He was a choir master at a very young age at the church in Norbury, where I think this choir, or boy band, it's described in one of the press releases,
Yes.
actually was founded.
Yeah, very much so. He took over the choir there when he was just 18, and I'm very much doing the same now, although not quite as young as he was. I've got a few more years under my belt. But it's still the performing part of the group that is known as Libera is the treble section of that choir. And so that's the group that you're going to hear on the records, and you just heard there with Once an Angel.
And indeed at Ely Cathedral this coming Saturday.
Yes, exactly. Although we do have some singers, when the boys' voices start to change, they stay on with us. They sing some lower parts, and we call them the bigs, kind of affectionately. And when we do our live shows, even though they may kind of be settling as young tenors or, kind of altos, they add some of the lower octaves and the lower parts that completes the full breadth of the Libera sound. So they're still very important to us, and they're still important in the cohesion and the running of the group, like odd, funny uncles who go about the place telling the little ones what to do.
I looked on the website just now, and there's the history of all the boys who have ever been in Libera, which is quite a number.
Oh, really? I think I haven't discovered that one yet. You'll have to point me in that direction. I know most of the history, but actually we had a celebration event for Robert's life just a week or so ago. And we had singers come back from generations and generations. Luckily, most of whom I knew, some of whom hadn't sung with the group for 40 years. So it's quite a long legacy there.
And you have given concerts across the world with particular fame, I believe, in the Philippines, the United States, and one or two other places.
Yes, we're really lucky to have been very well received in places like Japan and South Korea, the Philippines you mentioned, and the United States. I think perhaps in the UK that we very readily pigeonhole kind of choral music, or everyone wants to kind of know whereabouts it fits. And also because we have such a great choral tradition in this country that we are a kind of bit of an offshoot of, I suppose, that in other countries they see us as something that's a bit British but also a bit different, and that it's not kind of trying to fight the other great music making going on around the country. But we're very lucky to have performed some very large venues in particularly places like the Far East. We hope to go there very soon again, as soon as all the vaccination and all that kind of stuff sorts itself out.
It must have been quite a complex time for you. Of course, this was produced, I imagine, recorded before the pandemic or during?
It was during, actually. So all the singing had to stop in March 2020. And that's when Robert had the time to do lots of writing. So that's why this record has got lots of his originals back on it again, that he was a bit more contemplative and composing a bit more. And then we had to produce it in a slightly unusual way. We had to separate the boys out. So this was kind of recorded in the summer, really, of 2020. In that autumn, the boys were separated out where they usually sing together and kind of in separate little booths, and we had to do it slightly differently. Luckily, later on in the autumn, some things relaxed a bit, so we were able to record a bit more conventionally. So it was a challenge, but it was after not having sung properly for a good 6 months. It was such a tonic, such a remedy.
Let's just pause for one other of the tracks. The album is called If.
Yes, it's a track by Michael Nyman, and I think it found relative fame featuring in the Diary of Anne Frank. It's got really fantastic words by Roger Pulvers, and it's sung brilliantly by one of our young singers called Daniel, who's the soloist in this. Yeah, here it is, If.
At the sound of a wish, the summer sun would shine, and if just a smile would do to brush all the clouds from the sky. At the blink of an eye,
If by Michael Nyman, sung by Daniel, I think you said it was, from Libera. Sam Coates, my guest, talking about Robert Priesman, who created Libera. And of course, you're coming to Ely Cathedral. What are we going to hear?
Well, it's been really nice putting together the repertoire for this concert, actually, because the last couple of years, as it's happened, the main shows we've been able to do because of the way that lockdowns have worked have been mainly Christmas gigs or slightly shorter or whatever it is. So actually to do a full show again, full of lots of Libera originals, is a real treat. So there's a good homage to Robert in there. So there's lots of Robert originals, but there's also some of the earliest Libera tracks in there. So some of the original things where we blend ancient chant and a mixture of synthesizers and that kind of thing. But when we perform live, we have a small orchestra, and you'll hear a mix of solos. You'll also hear a couple of new tracks, actually, some things we're working on for a new record. So some things that are yet unheard. In fact, a couple of them, actually, were started by Robert as kind of sketches. And I've finished them off, and we're going to perform a couple of those this Saturday too.
You've been to Ely before?
Yes, 2018. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's such a history and such an amazing acoustic in there. In fact, we were scheduled to do the concert we're doing on Saturday in 2020. That was, of course, when everything stopped. But instead, we presented an online concert on the same day that we would have hosted our Ely concert. It's still online on YouTube, actually. You can go and check it out. That was, again, quite a feat of all the boys were in their own homes. We weren't allowed to leave. We had to send round a microphone and a video camera in a cab, then try and put it all together afterwards. I can tell you that putting together an actual concert is much more fun than that. So yes, it's nice to be singing together again, and we've got lots of lovely music for you on Saturday.
And of course, the CD to enjoy forever. One more track then. I think you've chosen Total Praise.
Yes, so this is one with a bit of a story, I suppose. We first sang it when we were invited to sing at World Youth Day in Poland about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's to date our largest live audience. They were hosting a very big event on the Saturday evening, I think it was, with the Pope there, and there were 2 million people splayed out on the fields in front of you. And it started with this solo voice. I mean, I think his name was Alessandro now, who did the opening of this, who's now, his voice has changed, and he's at Oxford somewhere. But we recorded it for this record because it has that kind of starting from something very small. And as you'll hear, it builds and it becomes something that's really quite magnificent. It's originally a gospel track, actually, by Richard Smallwood. But this is an arrangement that was done especially with strings for World Youth Day. And then we adapted it for the most recent record. And I think it's really special.
OK, well, Sam Coates, thank you very much indeed. The concert at Ely Cathedral next Saturday at 7:30.
I think there's still a couple of seats left, actually, at the very back. So do join us. I think it's on Ely's website.
Sam Coates, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much.
Lord, I will lift mine eyes to the hills, knowing my help is coming from you.
Cambridge 105 Radio.